The Key of Happiness. These lovely musicians called us early in 2020 and said, can we volunteer for the Dementia Society and provide people living with dementia and caregivers with some entertainment? And they've been volunteering ever since. Wow. Isn't that tremendous? So thank you, ladies, so much. And thank you for being here this evening and making this event so special for us. I know you have to leave and you're going to take that big piano out of here. So we'll try not to be so disruptive, but I know you'll be fine. So welcome, everyone. My name is Wendy Grimshaw. I'm the CEO of the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County. This is our first in-person event in our new space, our new Dementia Center. So we're so pleased that you're all here with us tonight. It's a little strange, I gotta tell you, to not be in a square box on a Zoom call, but it's great to be in person. And because this was a sellout event, we've got 120 or so people joining us online from the comfort of their living room. So welcome to them as well. So we begin tonight's event by acknowledging that we are on the Algonquin Nation's territory, the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation, and that we recognize here at the Dementia Society that we have work to do to make sure that all First Nations, Métis, and Indigenous people are supported. So this is the 5th of our series of our Women's Mind Matters lecture series, and tonight we are focused on knowing your risks and knowing your numbers, and apparently we're going to all have homework. So just be prepared for that. And we do fund this series through your generous support and donations. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate that. So why women in brain health? Well, some of you may know some of this, but women are diagnosed, do we have that up there? Yeah, 2 to 1 of men. So for every 3 people, 2 are women, 1 is a man. And in the hour that this event will take place, 15 people will be diagnosed in Canada with dementia, and 10 of those people will be women. Women, of course, are the majority of paid and unpaid caregivers for people living with dementia. And, you know, through this series, we're trying to tease out, is it because we're a woman that our risk is higher, or is it because we live longer, or what is it? So we're trying to figure that out through this series. We're also trying to figure out what we can do to manage our own risk and those that we love and care about. And so I know this is personal to many of you in the room. I know I've talked to a bunch of you. You know, as an example, my grandmother had dementia, my mother-in-law had dementia, my mom has dementia. I have a daughter that's 20, I knew I was gonna cry. I have a daughter that's 20 who does not have dementia, but thank goodness. But so if there's things that we can do ourselves and for our families and our loved ones, then I wanna know about it. And I know you do too. So that's what this series is all about. All right, so a couple logistics before I turn the floor over to our speaker. We've got about a 30-minute presentation today, and then we're going to have some more social time because we know that social time is great for a healthy brain. And unlike previous webcasts, because we're kind of doing this dual format, we can't do the question period, but I know we'll mingle and answer questions, and we will send you all a survey after, and you can put your questions in there, and we'll find a way of conveying them out to you. And after our presentation, we're going to have a dedication by the chair of our board of directors. So stay tuned for that. And then it's back to refreshments and mingling. And it's really been too long since we've gotten together. And some of you we know, and some of you we need to get to know again. And some of you we haven't met. So this is a great chance to do that. If you need anything at any time, you can find a volunteer with a black shirt and a daisy button and just grab them and they can help you out. All right, so it's my pleasure now to introduce you to Dr. Louise Laramie. Dr. Laramie is a cardiologist and a distinguished teacher at the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Ottawa. And she's also served on our board for many years. I think we figured out 5 or 6 years today, and currently serves as board secretary. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Laramie.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Wendy. What a pleasure, what an honor. So to be the first keynote speaker in these beautiful offices of the Dementia Society. Bienvenue à tout le monde. Merci d'être là. Thank you for doing something for yourselves and for your families d'être impliqué pour vous-même, pour votre santé, pour votre futur et aussi pour ceux que vous connaissez. Alors aujourd'hui, la présentation va être en anglais. Les questions, vous pourrez venir me voir après, alors lors du moment social, pour répondre aux questions si vous voulez, but I'll address in English. So, and I have to look at my notes from time to time, otherwise I can't be accountable for time. We'll be here all night. So, you know, vascular disease and dementia are, have become a passion. Vascular disease by choice to look after people with vascular disease, and dementia not by choice because mom had dementia. So dementia, it's a scary word, isn't it? Although we don't know each other, I'm pretty sure that we can unite on one front, that probably most of us are, you know, share the fear of one day developing dementia. And so if this rings true to you, certainly you're not alone. You may be looking at the news, looking for the new research that has found the magic cure for dementia. And you probably know also that there's a lot of research now on earlier diagnosis. But, you know, if we don't have the magic cure, the magic pill, maybe what's the point? But it would be helpful because we're predicting an epidemic of dementia. And in fact, some call it a tsunami. So no wonder we're scared, aren't we? So what about preventing it altogether? Well, what if I told you that we don't need anything fancy? We can prevent it right now. We don't need the new invention. We don't need the magic pill. We can do something about it right now. What if I told you that for early dementia, we can also slow down the process? And as a bonus, the same measures prevent most common cancers, strokes, and most cardiac conditions, such as heart attacks. All the same thing, all available to all of us right now. Doesn't that blow your mind? Like, think about it for a second. Somebody told me last week, we know what to do, but do we do what we know? Guilty. As a cardiovascular specialist, 20 years ago, when my mom, Rita, was diagnosed with dementia, honestly, I thought, how can it be? This can't be. Like, this is a smart woman, fiercely independent. She was a trailblazer for a woman born in 1920. And I thought, I just don't understand how this happens. I'm a cardiovascular specialist and I just don't understand. So the predominant thinking at that time was that dementia could strike anyone, anytime, a little bit like lightning, and that we would be powerless to do anything about it. So that's what we thought 20 years ago. Thankfully, since then, we know that that's not the case. We now know that you don't just catch dementia. Kate, I'm stealing that from you. Where are you, Kate? You don't catch dementia. It's the end result of daily insults over to the brain over decades. Now, that's food for thought, isn't it? And as people and as a society, we are anything but powerless. So first, we have to understand the notion of risk. So the dictionary definition of risk is a situation involving exposure to danger. Put it more simply, the possibility of something bad happening. So let's take the example of driving. So if you drive fast, erratically, you're distracted, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to have an accident, but it certainly increases the chance of it happening. That's why insurance companies call it risky behavior. So what about health risk? What does that mean? So it's a chance that something will harm or affect your health negatively. Risk doesn't mean that something bad is definitely going to happen. It just means it's more likely. So the health behaviors and conditions that increase the health risks we call them risk factors. The main cardiovascular risk factors are those chronic diseases that put a lot of strain on the blood vessels that go throughout the body and carry the blood to the brain and the heart. So the main cardiovascular risk factors are those chronic diseases such as hypertension, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, particularly the bad cholesterol, and of course, diabetes or prediabetes or insulin resistance as well for that matter. So these are known as the vascular risk factors. And then there's other risks that we call lifestyle risk factors. And they include smoking, abdominal obesity, diet rich in processed and ultra-processed food, and physical inactivity. So the thing about health risks is that they compound each other. So what we know is the more of those risk factors someone has, the higher their risk. We also know that the longer someone is exposed to any single of those risk factors, the higher the risk. So the heart and the brain, they're very similar. Like most heart disease, dementia develops over decades. So you don't know it until there's been enough brain damage that now you start seeing symptoms, whether it's memory loss or lack of judgment or whatever the presentation of the dementia is. And those daily insults that we call risk factors, they've done their work over many, many years. And now we enter the world of dementia. So the person affected by dementia is now called a patient. And the people, their loved ones, the rest of us, the caregivers. So we all change roles. And it's tough, isn't it? Can you relate to that? It's so darn tough. But it doesn't have to be this way. The future doesn't have to be like the past. And it doesn't have to be a tsunami. So you already know that there's different types of dementia. So the two most common are vascular dementia and, of course, Alzheimer's dementia. And they account for a great majority of the cases. So now, thankfully, there's a lot of scientific evidence that shows us that a lot can be done to prevent both of these types of dementia. And how do we do it? By controlling the risk factors. Turns out that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So you're probably wondering, how do these risk factors affect the brain? Well, I certainly encourage you to learn more about dementia through all the educational activities and conferences given by the Dementia Society. But we don't have much time, but let's have a quick look. So first, high blood pressure. Personally, that's the one that I fear the most. It's probably the most common, and it's the one that is the most harmful, particularly for women. You see, all the cells in our body depend on getting proper blood flow through the arteries so that they can deliver oxygen and the proper nutrients. So, and the arteries, as you know, they're little pipes, and they're built to carry blood pressures of 120 to 130 millimeters of mercury. So when you measure the blood pressure, the top number, 120, 130, that's a systolic blood pressure. So that's what we're talking about. So when over time, those blood vessels are exposed to higher pressure, what do? They have to adapt. The blood vessels have to adapt to prevent bursting, because bursting wouldn't be good. So they become hard, they change, they don't become dynamic anymore. And hence the old saying of hardening of the arteries. So, and contrary to a lot of people think, you don't feel the high blood pressure, or not normally, or rather by the time you have any symptoms of blood pressure, that's because there's already been irreversible damage to the brain. So it's really the silent killer. That's why it's called the silent killer. And there's a best number for everyone for the blood pressure, actually for many of the risk factors that may be a little different depending on the age, on the presence of other chronic diseases such as diabetes, and there's other variables. So we call this the target blood pressure. So question for you, don't answer. Do you know what your blood pressure is? The good news, ensuring that blood pressure is consistently at target lowers the risk. So what about diabetes? Well, diabetes occurs when the blood loses the ability to regulate what should be the normal blood glucose or blood sugar. So we're Canadians, we're going to use a sugar cabin example. So surely you know the difference between maple syrup and maple water, right? Maple syrup, well, it's syrup because there's a high content of sugar. So imagine maple syrup flowing through a little pipe, flowing through a straw. Our blood vessels, actually, most of our blood vessels are much smaller than a straw. But imagine the maple syrup trying to make its way through. It's slow, it's sluggish. It's not very good. Compared to maple water, down the straw, no problem, quick, good flow. So there's many other ways that diabetes affects the arteries, but you get the gist of it. So question for you, do you know what your blood glucose is, what your blood sugar is? The good news, ensuring that the blood sugar is at target lowers the risk. Now for cholesterol. So you're likely aware there's many hundreds of components of cholesterol, but the three main components that we measure frequently, I would say, are the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol that we call LDL, and the triglycerides. So when the bad cholesterol enters into the wall of the artery on the inside, that's how blockages start. That's the process of buildup, and eventually it creates atherosclerosis and blockages. So that's the beginning of vascular disease. You can't have a plaque without the LDL getting into the wall of the artery. And the more you have, the more it's likely to enter the wall of the artery. So we know that lowering the LDL lowers the risk of developing vascular disease. And we also have newer evidence that lowering the cholesterol level contributes to preventing dementia. So question for you, do you know what your cholesterol level is? The good news, you'll guess, ensuring that the cholesterol is at target lowers the risk. What about physical activity? Well, every step counts. Not everything has to be exercise. The key is moving. Being intentional about moving every day is the best advice we can give you. The brain loves the increased blood flow of the freshly oxygenated blood, and it rewards it by functioning at its best. So do you know how many steps you take on an average day? Take a guess. Do you know how many minutes a day or a week you're actually physically active? The good news, you'll guess, ensuring to be physically active lowers the risk. And in fact, we know that exercise is probably the most effective approach to the prevention of Alzheimer's and related dementias, probably in part because it helps control the risk factors. So what about the weight that we carry around the waist? Well, in medical terms, we call this abdominal obesity. The fact that we carry there is not the same as the fat around the arms or on the thighs. It's a special fat that is toxic to the body, causes inflammation, leads to difficulty in regulating blood sugar, all kinds of other issues, some of which are related to metabolic syndrome. So the goal doesn't have to be weight loss. It will be a consequence of being physically active and food choices. Do you know about the MIND diet? You might want to look it up. Just Google MIND diet. So losing as little as 5% of body weight or a couple centimeters around the waist improves metabolic health dramatically. And we certainly in cardiovascular medicine, we see that a lot. So do you know what your waistline measurement is? The good news, ensuring that the waist circumference and weight are at target. Finish my sentence. Lowers the risk, yes. So what about smoking? Thankfully, smoking is no longer the most frequent risk factor for vascular and other diseases. As fewer people smoke, it's been displaced by abdominal obesity and its dire consequences. It goes without saying that remaining smoke-free is best. And the good news, smokers who quit smoking lower their risk. So here we are. Here's a lot of good news, isn't it? Who's smiling? Yeah, okay, we're still smiling. So we just went over 7 ways to work on preventing dementia or slowing down the process, even when there's already mild cognitive impairment. So the American Heart Association scientific statement on brain health calls them, what you see on the screen behind me, the Life's Simple 7. So the message is, what's the message? Dementia can be prevented, indeed. So the science is slowly but surely connecting the dots that it's our everyday actions that impact our future health, much more than most people realize. So I have a question for you, and it's the title of the presentation. Do you know your numbers? Blood pressure, cholesterol, blood glucose, your waist measurement, your weight, steps a minute or minutes a day of being active. So you see, if you don't monitor your health yourself, it's a little bit like driving your car, not paying attention to the warning signs, speed limits, waiting for the police to stop you and tell you how fast you were going and how many stop signs you missed. Knowing those numbers is so very powerful. It can drive the conversation with your healthcare team to know for your situation, what is your target? What number should you be at for each of those risk factors? And how are you going to get there? Lifestyle and healthy daily habits are the crux, along with medication when needed and as needed to get to target. So when it comes to preventing dementia, there's a lot more under our control than we initially thought. Managing risk is an everyday decision. The question is, what are we prepared to do? A good start is a conversation with your physician or healthcare team about your risk factors. And by knowing your number, you know your risk. And then you decide what's the one action that you're prepared to take starting tomorrow to work towards maintaining your brain health. So finally, I'm so grateful and honored to be in the presence of such a group of impactful women who care, here in person and also online. You've accomplished so much in each of your own lives. Think of all the successes that you've had. How did you get there? No doubt you had a plan, and every day you put some time and effort towards reaching your goal. So I'm excited that you can apply your skills to maintaining your own brain health, but you must also impact, and you will also impact so many others, your family members, your children, your grandchildren that are at enormous risk of early dementia with the epidemic of obesity in teens and metabolic diseases in teens. So we can really make an impact to everyone in your circle of influence. So I hope that you'll continue to learn about dementia. And certainly I have the schedule for the activities in June, for example. It's of course available online as well. So continue to learn about dementia, continue to be the engaged women that you are, and carry this important message to everyone that dementia is preventable and there are clear steps that we can take. So know your numbers. Finish my sentence. Know your risk, have a plan, get it done. So it was a pleasure, and I'll be happy to chat about dementia. I encourage you to have conversations with dementia, but with having the power of change the future. Avoir le pouvoir de changer le futur en changeant nos activités de tous les jours. Alors, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Merci, Louise. Thank you for the very inspiring and motivating, I'm sure you all agree, motivating presentation that Louise just made. My name is Linda Cawley, and I'm proud to be the chair of the board of directors of the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County. And like many of you here this evening, I have a personal connection to dementia. My maternal grandmother and my mother both had dementia. And that's really what brought me to this organization. And I've been volunteering here since 2008. I'm certainly motivated to do what I can to influence in a positive way the modifiable risk factors that Louise spoke about. So we should have a slide with our mission, and there we go, that's the one. Thank you very much. Our organization's mission is amplified by over 200 active volunteers. Volunteers that include all of our board and committee members who donate their time and expertise to the success and sustainability of the Dementia Society. From musicians, ones you heard this evening, and others, to friendly visitors, to policy and financial wizards, I thank our volunteers, one and all. I'd like to take a moment to recognize my board and committee colleagues here this evening. If they wouldn't mind standing up if they're in the room, then please, speak to them when we have the opportunity after the formal presentation. You'll be able to spot them because they're wearing a large daisy button like the one that I have on. So we have with us this evening Marg Egan, who is our vice chair of the board. We have Dr. Anne Hennessy, who is a director on the board, and Mary Alice McNeil, who is a director on the board. And we have Veronica Engelberts, who is a member of our Fund Development Committee. And of course, you have already been introduced and heard from Dr. Louise Laramie, who is the secretary of our board of directors. And just so you're not misled, we do have a number of wonderful men who also serve on our board and on our committees. On our board, we're grateful to have Paul Morton, who is a director. He's the chair of our Fund Development Committee and chair of the Investment Subcommittee. We have Tom Caldwell, who is a director, and our newest member of the board is Joe Power. At the Dementia Society, we are inspired by women like yourselves, every day. We see you, the legion of women who support your families through dementia. We see the men too, of course, but the fact is that the vast majority of people who access our support, education, and programs are women. We also note the generosity of women who make up the majority of our donors, both in terms of number and dollar impact. So thank you. You're inspiring and generous. When you leave here this evening, you'll receive a package that includes a new brochure that makes the case for supporting the Dementia Society. Our goal is to show you how your gifts are having an impact in our community through testimonials and by sharing with you some of the numbers that demonstrate the impact. By donating to the Dementia Society, you help us to make a difference in the lives of people in our community who are impacted by dementia. Many of you here in person this evening and those online are already donors, and we thank you. Some are not yet donors, but we hope you will consider our cause. Many of you may not know how we are funded. The Dementia Society was founded over 40 years ago and is the recognized Ministry of Health funded support agency for dementia care in Ottawa and Renfrew County. The majority of the funding from Ontario Health and any special project funding we receive goes to pay for our core coaching and support services, as well as some of the education services that we offer. But unfortunately, chronic underfunding of our organization in the amount of approximately $400,000 a year means we must rely on donations to provide our core services, as well as the numerous social and recreational programs that we offer free of charge to people living with dementia, their caregivers and families. And support from people like you helps us to do four things. One, it creates awareness of dementia and the ways in which we can delay or prevent it. Two, we provide free education to the public at large and to specific communities at risk. Three, we can develop new programs to help people stay safely in their homes. And we know that's what people want to do. They want to live in their homes. And also to transition safely from hospital if that's something that needs to take place. And four, to provide individual support and guidance to thousands of people in our region facing dementia. And we know that cases are anticipated to rise from approximately 24,000 today to 3 times that by 2050. So to Louise's point, we all have a role to play in prevention, and hopefully we can make sure that that number doesn't in fact reach the 3 times 24,000. I won't do math in public, so I won't. So that brings me to the impact of a very special gift. At a previous webinar, we took a few minutes to speak about Evelyn Janet Taylor. So some of you may recall her story. Miss Taylor's mother had dementia, and she and her mother were supported by the Dementia Society for several years. Ms. Taylor, who you see here, was, by all accounts, a modest woman. She was a school teacher, and you have the details of her obituary here. And she did a remarkable thing. In her lifetime, and as a legacy gift, she gave $1.7 million to the Dementia Society. This incredible gift has helped us to move from our former home in a long-term care center to this accessible, purpose-designed space where we can welcome our community, people living with dementia and their families. Here they can be included, welcomed, and understood. And we're pretty proud of this new center, a space where we can host our own education, social, recreation, and support events. So I have the honor this evening of being able to dedicate one of our rooms to Evelyn Janet Taylor. The Evelyn Janet Taylor room is located just outside this programming space to my left. So I hope those here in person, I would invite you to visit that room. And this is where our expert and caring team of dementia care coaches welcomes families and provides tailored support and guidance to people impacted by dementia, regardless of where they are on the dementia continuum. We could not think of a better space to honor Ms. Taylor and her transformative gift than this space that is used to make such a meaningful difference in people's lives. And I want you to know that your support can and does make a difference. Well, not many of us are in a position to make a gift of the magnitude of Ms. Taylor's. Please know that every dollar of your support is greatly valued. What Ms. Taylor shows us is that people of seemingly modest means can make an impactful difference. And a gift in one's will can be a powerful tool in that regard. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, in person and virtually. And we hope you'll join us again for future Women's Mind Matters events. So thank you.